Hare Krishna. Ajanulam Bhujo Kanakavataksho Sankirtanaika Pitaro Kamalaya Taksho Vishwambaro Vishwambaro Dvijabaro Yugadharma Palo Bande Jagat Priyakaro Kornaya Avataro Namo Mahavaranaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gaurtase Namah Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Jata Padakamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavangscha Sri Rupam Sagradatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitang Tang Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Sri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakam Vitangscha Om Jnana Timrandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chakshuru Militam Jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Inindantam Pulakot Korena Bikasam Nipa Prasunastravim Prodrikritva Bhujadvayam Hari Hari Ituchai Vidantam Muhu Nrityantam Drutamasru Nirjara Chare Sinchantam Urvitalam Gayantam Nija Parasadaya Parivratam Sri Gaura Chandram Nama Ananda Lila Maya Vigrahaya Himava Divyachtavi Sundaraya Tasmai Mahaprema Rasa Pradaya Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste. In this verse of Srila Guru Maharaj, Premadama Devastotram Lakka Lochana Subharsha Harsha Kesha Kartanam Koti Kanta Krishna Kirtanadya Danda Dharanam Nyasi Vesha Sarvadesha Hahutasa Kastaram Premadama Devameva Nomi Gaura Sundaram. So as we told that Nimai Pandit during the Brahma Muhurta, a couple days back, he left his home with Mother Sachi crying in the doorstep, the sleeping Vishnu Priya, Gadadhar, another devotee, and he swam across the Ganga to the ashram of Keshava Bharati, the Maharaj, sannyasi, to get sannyas from him. And yesterday was the day of consideration because Nimai Pandit, he's 24 years old. So normally sannyas and the varnashram system is recommended like after the age of 50. So say 55-ish and the mid-50s. It's not something that's done when someone's 24 years old, and on top of it all, they're extraordinarily beautiful, handsome, beyond description. So there are many things to consider, and Kesava Bharati is trying to find a way around this. So Guru Maharaj says, he tells him, you'll have to get your mother's permission. And that shows something about the Indian culture, how honored the position as mother. Guru Maharaj said that there was one famous Indian scientist that he was such a genius. They wanted him to go to England. In England, he was being invited for conferences to come there and share his knowledge with everybody, like a body of scholars. But he couldn't go because his mother wouldn't give him permission. She wouldn't give him permission to leave India. So it shows you how deep and real this is in Vedic culture, the exalted position of mother, and how seriously Mahaprabhu took it. So Keshava Bharati saying like, all right, you have to get your mother's permission, thinking she won't give it. And then Mahaprabhu starts running and he thinks, he's so beautiful, so charming, and of course she'll have to agree. Who could refuse him anything? Come back. So, and he had already told Chandrasekhar Acharya and Nityananda and others to be there, particularly Chandrasekhar Acharya, to do all the rituals associated with taking sannyas. So it was somehow delayed, and throughout the day, Mahaprabhu, Nimai Pandit, they're engaged in incessant Krishna Katha and Krishna Kirtan. The night passed, and on the next day, he told Chandrasekhar to get everything ready for the sannyas. But meanwhile, millions of people have got, the word is spread like wildfire that Nimai Pandit's going to take sannyas. And the people have assembled, and they're very much against this. So the dramatic tension is increasing, and it's mentioned, like in the crowd, people, like some woman saying, like, "Who invented this sannyas anyway?" And like, and how is this following religion that you should leave your mother? The crowd's getting all excited, and we're told, but he's so beautiful. Still, he has his hair and everything, and we're told that 2 million unblinking eyes are staring at the beauty of Gauranga Sundar. He's that beautiful. Right? 2 million means 1 million people, 2 million eyes, not blinking. It's that intense. And they're threatening Keshava Bharati also. They're saying, if you do this, we're going to destroy your ashram. We're going to run you out of town. You'll be lucky to escape with your life. So he's under threats of death threats, and but somehow, as Nityananda said before, when he regretfully had to acknowledge that this was going to happen, that he's saying, whatever your will is, that must happen. So somehow it began. And so, as the verse addressed here by Srila Guru Maharaj, the barbers called in. And we're told at that moment, so those 2 million unblinking eyes start shedding tears profusely. Right? And the barber, he's crying, right? And like shaking. So he's crying, they're all crying, he's crying. Nityananda Prabhu is crying, all the devotees are crying. And then we're told, mixed in with that crowd and unseen also, are demigods, innumerable, millions of demigods. They've also come for this, and they're crying. So just saying, this sound of the crying of the demigods, the people ascended, the devotees, like, it's flooding the universe with tears and crying. And that barber's like looking for some help, like, how can I do this? But somehow, again, by the will of the Lord, he comes forward, and when he shaves off the hair then of Nimai Pandit, then people are just fainting. They can no longer maintain consciousness. But it's a peculiar thing, because he still looks so beautiful. And I was thinking, sometimes in the modern world, they have some like supermodel or something, and for some fashion, they'll like shave their head. And everyone thinks, oh, what a tragedy, or oh, she still looks beautiful, even without all the hair. If that can be for a person in this world, imagine, it's heartbreaking for the devotees that he's shorn of his beautiful locks, but at the same time, he's still extraordinarily beautiful, like as Gora Chandra, the golden moon. And that barber, Guru Maharaj mentioned that he was saying, like, I'll never shave another head. How can I after this? And he took the occupation of a sweet maker. And it's told that due to his contact, with sweetness personified, these sweets he made had an extraordinary sweetness to them. People would remark. So, and so everything is being prepared. And also, it was difficult to shave his head because he didn't just sit there. He was so immersed in Krishna Prem that his body swaying, moving, trembling, ecstatic, symptoms are playing upon his divine form. But still it happened. So then Keshava Bharati comes, and as you think, Mahaprabhu is asking him, he's saying, please, you can free me from this world through Diksha, through initiation, please give that. And Keshava Bharati is thinking, no one is your guru. I can understand you want me to play that part, that's all. No one is your guru. So it's time to give the mantra, and right before he does, Mahaprabhu said, I had a dream, and a Mahajan came to me in the dream, and he told me the mantra. Is this the mantra? And he leans over and says the mantra into the ear of Keshava Bharati. And Keshava Bharati, because Mahaprabhu is infusing that, what was the Mayavadi Sannyas mantram, Tattvamasi, identifying with Brahma. He's infusing it with the highest conception of Krishna Dasyam, Radha Dasyam. So Keshava Bharati is saying, yes, because now it's coming to him with some new understanding and realization. He's thinking, oh, then this month, now it's perfect. So it's taken that Mahaprabhu initiates him, and now he will repeat the mantra into the ear of Mahaprabhu, having heard it from Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And then the time comes for giving the name. And by custom, he should name him Bharati, something Bharati. Because there are these names, Tirtha Ashram, Aranya, Puri, Bharati, etc. 10 primary names. So he's in the Bharati line, he should give him some version of that. He's thinking, but that won't be suitable in this case. And he's meditating, what should the name be? And we're told that Shuddha Saraswati, not the demigoddess Saraswati, but Shuddha Saraswati, like of Goloka. She descends upon his tongue, and he realizes, he's saying, because you're going to give Krishna consciousness to the world, you're going to bring the world back to consciousness. It's, sleeping. What is the opening line? Kali Kukura Kadana, and the Kali Yuga, just sleeping in ignorance. You're going to arouse Krishna consciousness in everyone, so your name will be Sri Krishna Chaitanya. And at that moment, the crowd, they're all going, Sri Jai, Sri Krishna Chaitanya. And how is it, the Srinivasacharya's uncle was there from his village, because people had come from many different places. And hearing that, he starts echoing by going, Chaitanya, Chaitanya, Chaitanya. And when he returned to his village and people were saying, what happened in Katwa with Nimai Pandit? Tell us. And he would say, Chaitanya, Chaitanya, Chaitanya. And he just was in the zone of Chaitanya Nam for the rest of his life. So he became known as Chaitanya Das. So as Srila Rupa Goswami says in one of the verses of his Chaitanyastakam, Sado Pasha Sriman Drita Manujakai Pranaitam Bahadbi Girvanesha Girisha Paramrishti Prithivi Sa Bhaktebyam Sudha Bhajanam Mudram Upadisham Sat Chaitanya Kime Punarapidushnor Yashati Padam. And because even Brahma and Shiva, they want to have a glimpse of the beauty of Gauranga Sundar. And I've mentioned this to help us understand something of his incomparable beauty elsewhere. Swarupam Bibranam Jagatatulyam. So Krishna is described as, Achintya Guna Swarup, inconceivably beautiful. Yang Shyama Sundaram Achintya Guna Swarupam. Kandarpa Koti Kamaniya Vishesha Shobham. So, what could be more beautiful than Krishna? Right? But then we're told Krishna's sweetness sprung up from Krishna, his sweetness personified is Srimati Radharani. And she is so beautiful, charming, and sweet that all attractive Krishna is irresistibly drawn in attraction to her. So you have the predominated moiety, then the predominating moiety. Right? And she's the better half of the sweet absolute. But if you combine them together, what would be the combined beauty of Radha and Krishna? That is something that inconceivable of inconceivable things. So how beautiful he is. Even Brahma and Shiva want to have a glimpse. So Rupa Goswami said, in those millions, they descend in the world disguised as human beings. Girisha means Shiva, Parameshti means Brahma, and they come and he's saying, and what are the gifts? Because you should bring some gift. The gift, he's saying, is the love and affection in their hearts. That's what they've come bearing for him. And they're astonished to see that. So Guru Maharaj, in his Bhakti Vinod Viraha Dasakam, he says, that line, Jiva Jaya Varakshitam, Shiva Sukha Brahma Samanitam. And Shiva, Sukha, Brahma, they're all aspiring for a drop of this divine substance. And they're identified as Radhadasyam. But why has he descended this dual purpose? One is for the Yuga Dharma, right, to save everyone, right, through the distribution of Krishna Nam. But his internal purpose, as revealed in Charitamritam, is to Radha Bhavadyuti Subalita, enveloped in the heart of Srimati Radharani and the halo radiance outward, converting, Kalachan, the black moon of Krishna, into Gaurachan, the golden moon of Gauranga Mahaprabhu. So he's come to experience her position. All these things we will hear about the ecstatic symptoms of Mahaprabhu and the effects the holy name of Krishna has upon him, that Krishna Katha has upon him. Remember, they're all him experiencing what happens to Srimati Radharani when she hears the name of Krishna, when she hears Krishna Katha. We should remember that. So it's mentioned by Basu Ghosh, Jadi Gorna Hoita Tabiki Hoita, Kemaridaritam Dehe, Radhar Mahima Prema Rasasima Jagata Janatuke. If Gauranga had not come, we wouldn't know the greatness, Radhar Mahima, the greatness, the glories of Srimati Radharani, and Prema Rasa Simha, the limits, meaning the heights, how great Krishna Prem can be. And that means more specifically Mahabhav. So Saraswati Thakur in his Chaitanya Bhagavat, when he quotes the Vishnu Sahasranam sloka, Suvarna Varna He Mango Barangas Chandanagadi, about Gauranga, Suvarna Varna. Hemanga means also golden, like Gauranga. So, Sannyasa Krit Shama Shanto Nishta Shanti Parayana. It's interesting there, he's saying, all these things, he takes sannyas, he gives, and he saves the people of the world, he rescues them, and and he puts in his translation of that, and fully absorbed in Mahabhav. He puts that in the translation of that sloka, what is not, shall we say, easily decipherable. But he makes it a point of that's what he's absorbed in. Because as Guru Maharaj said, as Rupa Goswami indicates, Namo Mahavadanaya, he's the Mahavadanaya avatar. No one is more merciful than him. And all the avatars that have ever descended. It's not that he's giving something similar to them or the same. Right? In one sense, same, but different. Because we heard Mahaprabhu taking on the bhav of these different avatars, like Varaha at the house of Murari Gupta, Nrsinga at another place. We're also told, and I want my Chinese disciples, followers, and friends to hear this. He says, I am Buddha, right? Of those 10, he says directly, and I am Nrsinga, I am this. He also says, I am Buddha. So when you see Buddha, what is Buddha really known for? Korun, compassion or mercy. But here is that compassion and mercy taken to its highest level. So the next time you see the Buddha's temple or the Murti of Buddha, think Gauranga, right? Avatar Sar, Gora avatar. So, but if he's the most magnanimous incarnation, because they all have some specific function, like Nrsinga to appearing out of the love of Prahlad to rescue his devotee, Matsya to save the Vedas, Varaha to save the earth, these kind of things. But thematically are the same. Paritranaya sarunam vinashaya chaduskritam, or Brajajana palana asurakula nashana. But for him to be the most magnanimous, then he would have to be distributing what he thinks to be the most valuable thing to the least qualified or the most fallen. That would qualify as being the greatest magnanimity. So what does he consider to be the highest thing? We could say, Krishna Prem, right? But according to Rupa Goswami, there are even levels and degrees of Krishna Prem. So what is the Krishna Prem that is so utterly heart-swallowing as to arouse the curiosity in Krishna to experience the position of Srimati Radharani, but Mahabhav, which is generally only experienced by her and by Mahaprabhu. We'll find out later in the case of Madhavendra Puri and some indication of the Rupa Nuga line. Right? So it is the most extraordinary thing that he's come to give to everyone under the guise of being the Yuga avatar. So having given the name Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, everyone is dancing and celebrating Mahaprabhu. He's so ecstatic when he's singing and dancing. He has a danda and a kamandalu. He loses them almost instantly. And he gets the inspiration, like, what should you do after taking sannyas? The search for Sri Krishna. Immediately run to Krishna. So he wants to go to Vrindavan. Kahan Krishna, Kahan Pan, Brajendra Nandan, Kahan Pan, Murali Badan, Kaha Krishna, Kaha Pan, Brajendra Nandan. He's trying to immediately go to Krishna. He's searching, where's the Lord of my heart? Murali Vadana means the one who plays the flute. The Lord, my life. And Kesava Bharati wants to go with him. He tosses his danda and his water pot, and he's dancing and with a few associates. First being followed by so many people, but then gradually it's a few. And Advaita went also, but then Mahaprabhu is telling Advaita, like, if you don't Well, actually, that comes later with Advaita. But anyway, so Mahaprabhu, now he's wandered off searching for Krishna. But the pull of the heart of his devotees, it's like he can't escape that. Right? So although he starts off in the western direction toward Vrindavan, after some time he's going east, which is the opposite. And in the meantime, the devotees who they go to Sachi Mata's house and find out what's happened, now they're devastated and they become suicidal. Right? They're just crying, falling to the ground. Even Advaita Acharya wants to commit suicide. And he's saying, I will drown myself in the Ganga. Right? And then he thinks, in the daytime, people will stop me. So I'll do it tonight when no one can see. He's devastated, all the devotees are, and Sachi Mata, particularly Vishnu Priya. But so Mahaprabhu, he's wandering now, like in divine madness in a childlike state. And we're told that this, and Raradesh, where that's the place where the Ganga does not flow. Right? So he wants to find out how to go to the Ganga Jamuna. And some little cowherd boy starts singing Hari Bol. Some beautiful little cowherd, and then that gives him some inspiration. And he's thinking, I must be near. There's cows, cowherd boys, I must be getting close to Vrindavan. And what he doesn't know is Nityananda Prabhu has told them, if you see this sannyasi come and he asks you which way is Vrindavan, point this way, which is the opposite way. And they're simple-hearted, so yes. And I'm sure Nityananda Prabhu was very charming. But so he and Mahaprabhu, they're going, and the others, sometimes they become separated. Sometimes Mahaprabhu gets separated from the devotees, and he's wailing and crying in separation from Krishna. You could hear it from like 2 miles away. And he's roaring in a lion-like voice and crying out for Krishna. Then the devotees will find him. Sometimes they're together, sometimes a little separated. But at the suggestion of the cowherd boys, they tell him, go in this way to the Jamuna. Nityananda had also told Advaita to be nearby. So when Mahaprabhu says, where's the Jamuna? And by this time they've made it to the Ganga, and Nityananda says, it's right here. And he's saying, oh, how fortunate I am to come to the Jamuna and Vrindavan. And he sings this prayer, that Chidananda Bano, Sadananda Shuno, Para Prema Datri, Brahmadrava Gatri. Really saying that the Jamuna gives Krishna Prem. Elsewhere it said, Krishna Rasa Swarup, that the Jamuna and the Ganga, they're the Prem Rasa, the form that the current of Prem takes for distribution in this world. Right? He's bathing in Jamuna with that concept in mind. So he's chanting prayers and praise of the Jamuna, bathing there. And when he comes out of the water, he says that Advaita Acharya, he came by boat, he's on the shore. Mahaprabhu only has the clothes that he's wearing, and now they're all wet. And Advaita's waiting there with fresh kopins, bahirvas, uttara, everything. And remember, Mahaprabhu is in this divine state of madness. He's a little confused and says to Advaita, like, how did you know I was in Vrindavan? And Advaita charges, is this a joke? Wherever you are is Vrindavan. And then he started, and Nityananda, Advaita, oh, it's the tricks of Nityananda. I've been deceived. And Advaita is thinking, for 3 days you've been wandering like this and fasting. And please, he says, I'm just a humble householder. Remember, he's also Mahavishnu, his unlimited opulences. His wife, consort, Sita Thakurani, he's saying, I'm a humble householder. He said, but at my place, I've prepared a palm full of rice and some soup, some vegetables, and a little spinach, if you would be so kind to grace our humble abode like that. So remember, it was Advaita, Tulasidala Matrena Jalasya Chulakena Ba, who with a palm full of Ganga Jal and Tulsi leaves brought Mahaprabhu down here. So he agrees to go to the house of Advaita, and there Sita Thakurani, she's cooked like so many wonderful, inconceivably extraordinary preparations. Not just a palm full of rice and, like Advaita said. And when Mahaprabhu and Nityananda Prabhu come, Advaita, he washes their lotus feet and gives them a comfortable sitting place, and he's offering all the bhog to his shalagram and his Vishnu worship. And there's 3 plates prepared, and it comes time to take the prasadam. Mahaprabhu thinks all these plates are for the deity and says, oh, bring some other plates and we can take a little bit. That's what he's saying, like a little bit from, And Advaita charges saying, no, Prabhu, you just sit, you, Nityananda Prabhu, and the 2 of you sit, and I'll serve the prasadam. And Mahaprabhu was saying, it's not good for a sannyasi to take all these things. Saying, how will he, keep his sannyas if he eats so many opulent, luxurious preparations? And Advaita is saying, no, not like that. It just, please be seated and allow me to serve you some prasad. So he's, with these beautiful banana leaf plates, Advaita Charja is putting all these preparations that Sita Thakurani made, serving them to Mahaprabhu and Nityananda Prabhu. We're told when Mahaprabhu will finish half of one, when he moves on to something else, Advaita fills that up. Then he goes, so everything's always full. And Mahaprabhu is thinking like, how much can I eat? And, and to answer that, Advaita says, well, you eat 54 offerings every day in Jagannath Puri, and each offering has thousands of pots. So I don't think this is anything in comparison to when you say, how much can you eat? But Nityananda Prabhu, being the avadut and unpredictable in his behavior, and also creating some tension in the pastimes so that divine sentiments will be intensified. He's sometimes joking with Advaita, but appearing very serious. And so Nityananda Prabhu, he's saying, when he sees what's offering, remember, there are just so many preparations, and he's saying, I had hoped to break my fast today. Looks like that's not going to be possible. See, I've been fasting for 3 days, and what is this? Nothing, And then Advaita says to him, he's saying, look, I'm just a poor householder. Saying, how can I possibly, you look like you could eat 10 kilos of rice. Where am I going to get that? And Nityananda is complaining, And Advaita Acharya calls him a brushta paramahansa. And if you look at that word, it has lots of different meanings. Some of them a little offensive, like fallen, reject, but one meaning of fallen too is like fallen out of the sky, like like where did this person come from? It's really an offensive word, but this is man, loving exchange. So, and he's saying, Advaita says to him, so I think like you took sannyas to just like eat for free. If you took sannyas, so you can go to different places and eat for free because you're a sannyasi. And really what delights you is giving householders a hard time, right? And Nityananda Prabhu is saying to Advaita that actually what you've given here is so insufficient. He's saying, whatever I've eaten here, it hasn't even half filled my stomach. He's saying, so just take it away. Because Advaita is telling him, no, try and like be calm and composed and just eat nicely and don't make a mess. And Nityananda is saying, what? This is nothing for me. And he picks up some rice and just take this out of here. And when he throws the rice, some rice comes upon Advaita Acharya and he starts dancing, saying, how fortunate I am to get some rice from Nityananda Prabhu. So they're playing in that way. Then finally, Mahaprabhu and Nityananda Prabhu call for Mukunda and Haridas to come and take, and they make excuses like, oh, we'll take later. No, you just rest right now. And Advaita Acharya gives them various things before resting, and the Nityananda Prabhu and Mahaprabhu take rest. Advaita wants to massage the feet of Mahaprabhu, and Mahaprabhu is saying, no, makes him a little uncomfortable. He's saying, no, you go take prasadam. And when they wake up, they start having a kirtan. And Advaita Acharya is singing in that kirtan. And he sings a song of separation that's from Vidyapati. We hear elsewhere in Charitamritam that behind closed doors in the Gangbir in Jagannath Puri, that in the company of Swarup Damodar and Ramananda, that Mahaprabhu is hearing Gita Govinda, Krishna Karnamritam, Jagannath Ballabha Natak, and the songs of Chandidas and Vidyapati. But we don't find Chandidas songs in Vidyapati. There's a few verses from Gita Govinda, Karnamritam, Jagannath Ballabha Natak, but nothing from Chandidas. But here we find this line from a song of Vidyapati. And it's really a song sung by Srimati Radharani. It's when Krishna returns. Just imagine, we hear of the separation she's experiencing. This is the song she sings when he's returned. That's the song that Advaita Acharya starts singing. And how happy he is. Madhava has come to his house today. And Mahaprabhu starts singing and dancing to that. Nityananda Prabhu is dancing. And Advaita starts saying things to Mahaprabhu like, for the longest time you're bluffing me and hiding from me, but now I've got you, I'll never let go, I've got you here in my house. And he's saying all these things while they're singing the songs. And Mahaprabhu is becoming more and more ecstatic, streams of tears, his hair standing on it, body shivering, shaking, falling to the ground. And at one point, when he falls to the ground, everyone is a little shocked. And they think they stop for a moment. And then what happens? Mukunda, recognizing what he's feeling, he starts singing. And more intimate songs. Then we're told, what Mukunda is singing is so sweet, but upon hearing it, in the words that are given there, Srila Prabhupada's translation, he said, when Mahaprabhu hears it, his mind goes to pieces. He completely goes into divine madness. And gradually he has to be held by Nityananda Prabhu. So, and the waves of ecstasy, there's so many different types identified by Rupa Goswami. They're all described there as like, as if they're different soldiers in different armies fighting with one another. Different, which is, where is this described or anything like this anywhere else but in the pastimes of Mahaprabhu and Sri Chaitanya Charitamritam. So, and gradually the word Mahaprabhu told Chandrasekhar Acharya and sent Nityananda. Chandrasekhar went to Advaita, but Nityananda Prabhu was sent to Mother Sachi and before all of this, because they're on the verge of suicide, so he's telling them, no, he's coming in a few days, meaning this, now that he's at Advaitas, Nityananda had told them a couple days before, to hang on, to hold on, he'll be there. And Sachi had been fasting for so long. Nityananda's strategy with her was to say, if you fast, Krishna doesn't eat. Because she was in this mood. When anyone would come to her, she would ask them about Krishna and Balaram. Right? She wouldn't say Gaura and Nityananda, she was asking about Krishna and Balaram. So Nityananda, when he finally comes, he's saying, if you fast, Krishna fasts, so you must eat. And he convinces, and he's saying, and Nimai is going to be at Advaita's house, so please. So she made prasadam for all the devotees, they all went. So after one day at Advaita's house, the next day, Sachi Mata comes, and she's so happy to see him. At first, she's, of course, disturbed to see that his beautiful hair has been shaven. But still, he looks so beautiful. And we're told, she has him on her lap. She's kissing his face and hugging him and crying. And so her eyes are so full of tears that she can't really see him. And she wants him to stay with her. And at that time, he says to her, actually, this body belongs to you. It's your decision. I totally belong to you. You've created me. You've generated me, so I can never leave you. I can't leave these devotees either. So you decide. And he tells the other devotees as well, even though I've taken sannyas, we're always going to be together. So you've got to figure out some way that both of these things can be true. Right? And Advaita, Nityananda, the others approach Mother Sachi. She will make the decision. Like that man, his mother said, can you go or not go? And how merciful is Sachi Mata that she's saying, I want Gauranga to stay with me. That will make me happy. And it'll make all the devotees happy. But people will blame him. They'll find fault in him if we do that. So if he will stay in Puri, then she says, Puri and Navadvip are like two rooms in the same house. So devotees are always coming, going, Navadvip, Puri, Puri, Navadvip, like that. So I'll always get some news from him. Sometimes he will come and bathe in the Ganga. That's the solution for this. It's heartbreaking for me, but that's the solution that I'm suggesting. And accepting that, everyone is happy, Mahaprabhu as well. And although just as Advaita's offering this wonderful prasadam, now other devotees, they want to, of course, do that. And then Sachimata says, look, you're all going to still be with him from time to time, but this is it for me. So he stays there around 10, 12 days. Sachimata cooks every single day, and every single day they have these extraordinary kirtans until it's finally time for him to go, and they can't bear for him to go. So Advaita is saying, 2 more days. Then he agrees, 2 more days. And then finally, he's going, and it's again heartbreaking. Advaita wants to go with him and follows him for some time. He's with Nityananda, Mukunda, Damodar, and Jagadananda, I believe. And Advaita in the beginning, and then Mahaprabhu says, if you fall apart, everybody will fall apart. So it'll be your seva to return and just be strong for everyone. And Advaita finally agrees to that. And Mahaprabhu starts making his way to Jagannath Puri because he gets the inspiration. He got it before that that's what Krishna wants. I wanted to go to Vrindavan. I've been told that's not going to happen right now. Oh, but Krishna, Jagannath in Puri is saying, come to me, right? And we know that's where his most significant pastimes will take place, honoring the Rath Yatra every year. And it's noteworthy that when Mahaprabhu was wandering in his divine madness, having taken sannyas, that he quotes this verse from the, what is that? The 11th canto, the Brahman of Avantipur. It's the original verse about sannyas. Right? You say, Etam samastaya paratmanishtam adyasitam purvatamar maharshibi ahang tarishami durantaparam tamo mukundangri nisheva yeva. Saying how he will cross over the ocean of nescience. And the point of emphasis, as he says, Mukunda Seva. By serving the lotus feet of Mukunda, then one can cross over the ocean of nescience. So he's saying it's not that it's just about renunciation, but in the line of Rupa Goswami, Nirbandha Krishna Sambandhi Yukta Vairagya Muchate, that through service to the lotus feet of the Lord and his devotees, that automatically that will be achieved. And it was observed by everyone, just as when Kesava Bharati saw on the day that sun rose, to him it appeared the sun rose in his ashram. Such was the effulgence of Gauranga Mahaprabhu. So, but after he took sannyas, the saffron garments covering his divine form, they're described as aruna basana, which means they're the color of sunrise, right? That type of saffron. Whereas the Mayavadis are more raktave, like red. The arunabasa, sunrise, that type of reddish hue, saffron. But with the golden form of Gauranga Mahaprabhu, beneath that, it took on some extra beautiful illumination. So Rupa Goswami, in describing the beauty of Mahaprabhu in the Chaitanyastakam, He says, Raso Dama Kamar Budama Duradamojvala Tanur. This Dam Ujjvala, Madhura Ujjvala Tanur. How sweet and enchanting was the divine form of Mahaprabhu. He's saying, Kamar Buddha. If 10 million cupids in full-blown cupidity were to appear as one, he has that type of seductive charm and sweetness. And Jati Namu Tankshas Tarani Koti Vidyoti Basana. And his cloth is like, there's this golden glow beneath the saffron cloth that makes him even look more beautiful. Right? Like Param Bhushana Bhushanangam, the ornament. He's making it look even more beautiful. And Hiranyanam Lakshmi Baran Abhibhavang Angika Rucha. And how golden? Guru Maharaj said, like, there's different levels of gold, and Guru Maharaj was talking about if you can imagine this incredibly beautiful, shining gold, like if you've ever seen like gold, that molten gold, when it's in its liquid state before it cools, that type of shining, beautiful radiance. So Rupa Goswami is saying, I saw this with my own eyes, such a beautiful form of Mahaprabhu. And Srila Guru Maharaj says in his Premadama Deva Stotram, Svarna Koti Darpanaba Deho Varna Gauravam. He says 10 million brilliant shining mirrors of gold. And he says, Varnama Koti Kami Murchitangri Rupa Rasa Svarna Koti Darpanaba Deho Varna Gauravam. Padma Parijata Gandha Banditanga Saurabham Koti Kami Murchitangri Rupa Rasa Rangaram Prema Dama Deva Meva Nomi Gaura Sundaram. And he's saying, as Rupa Goswami said, 10 million cupids and full-blown cupidity, Guru Maharaj says, he's so beautiful that 10 million cupids will faint to see the beauty of Gauranga Mahaprabhu. So, but at the heart of these pastimes, as Srila Gurudev would say, what is his tasting matter? Viraha, Krishna Viraha, separation. And we see just heartbreak after heartbreak. When he leaves that morning to go take sannyas, it's breaking the heart of Vishnupriya, breaking the heart of Sachimata, piercing the hearts of all these devotees. So Guru Maharaj makes the point, like an hour, he's piercing their hearts, and this love and separation is entering there, which is the finest type of affection for Krishna. Saying without separation, union cannot be much appreciated, just as without hunger, food cannot be relished. So from one point of view, it appears to be like almost cruel. But from another point of view, it's by breaking these hearts, he's allowing the highest type of divine love to enter there. So it's the greatest mercy and compassion upon them, because their affection is drawing them towards him. So, one thing I wanted to read from Guru Maharaj. Where he, here. He says, in this way, the sannyas of Nimai Pandit took place. What is the meaning of his sannyas? Is it redundant, auxiliary, or a necessary part of spiritual advancement? Is it desirable? Although apparently undesirable, still it has its necessity. In the Krishna conception of theism, there is a deep-rooted correlation between union with the Lord and separation from Him. Without separation, union cannot be deep-rooted. The pain of separation can enter the depth of the heart much more than cheerfulness. Such apprehension increases our satisfaction. The greater our want, the greater our satisfaction. This is especially true in love affairs. So also, and we could say, in this world, we might hear stories, love stories, and that awakens some sympathy or empathy in our hearts by hearing that. Right? But it's just a mundane love story. Here's another type of story that has similar elements, but if you can manage to express some appreciation for this, then it's taking you into another plane, right? It's reality, as opposed to just hearing something that's a reflection of that. So he said, this is especially true in love affairs. If there is no necessity of a thing, it has no value. This principle is found everywhere. A glass of water is ordinary, but according to the degree of its necessity, its value will increase. So the degree of necessity is most important. Necessity means separation. Necessity independent of fulfillment is separation, hunger. And then he talks about the parallel to Krishna Lila. And he says, long separation is what makes devotion so dignified. The test of separation shows whether love is real. Such a long-standing separation and such a great test has never been found in history. Still, the depth of their love did not diminish. Rather, an inconceivable, ever-increasing depth of divine love was found there. And the parallel is given to when Krishna left Vrindavan and plunged the gopis into an ocean of separation. And his Puri is tantamount to Dwarka. So Krishna leaves Vrindavan, he ends up staying in Dwarka, then comes out of Dwarka to Kurukshetra to meet with Radharani and the Braja Gopis. So, and they're asking him to give up the dress of a king, his Maharaj Vesh. So similarly, here, Vrindavan, Navadvip being Vrindavan, now he's going, in a sense, to stay in Dwaraka, Puri. Right? When I asked Guru Maharaj once, I was saying, well, if the greatest depth of separation shown in Mahaprabhu's pastimes is in the Gangbir and Puri, I was saying, how do we understand that in relation to Navadvip and the devotees there? And like higher, lower, superior. And Guru Maharaj said, stalwart followers of Mahaprabhu prefer Navadvip. And then he gave this parallel. So the devotees in Navadvip, we hear that 5 years after taking sannyas, you can revisit your hometown. So at that time, Mahaprabhu returns. Right? And again, the news spreads like wildfire. Everyone's coming to see him, and particularly those who committed offenses. Because we're told sometimes they would say, like, why is he crying so much? Crying all the time. And then when they would see him and hear his crying, then they would start crying and they would experience Krishna Prem. But they started off as doubters or disbelievers. So when he returns, they all want to come back and beg forgiveness, and all the devotees are excited. And we're told at that time, Vishnu Priya and Sachimata are in the corner of the crowd, and Vishnu Priya looking emaciated, because she did so many austerities and separation from him. And in deference to her, he steps out of his padukas, his wooden shoes, and walks on with the crowd. And then Vishnupriya comes and clutches them and worships them for the rest of her life. But he goes from there to Vidyanagar, the house of, what is his name? Vidyavachaspati, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya's brother-in-law, or relative. And all the devotees want to come there to see him. And to do that, they have to cross the Ganga. And it's similar when they went to Shantipur, similar thing happened. They go down, and there are, remember, gods and goddesses mixed in. What was 1,000, 100,000 becomes 1,000,000. So they go down to the Ganga, and the boats, people are so eager, the boats are overloaded, so they sink. Right? So people are drowning, but they come up chanting, they're chanting Haribol, and they're singing, and they don't drown. Somehow they can float. Right? So they make it to the other side. Nobody drowns. And some of them take a pot, those big, turn the pot upside down, float that way, this way, any way imaginable. Banana leaf boat, like we saw Gurudev in the film. He's boating around Navadvip on, the trunk of a banana tree. Somehow they would get across. We're told at some point they just start running, and there's so many people that it's like the waves parting, no one can drown because there's just so many people going across. And when they do get there, they're at the house, and they all want to have a glimpse of the beautiful form of Gauranga Sundar. So they're climbing trees and going out on the branches. Sometimes it's just a twig on the branch, but it can support a human being by divine potency, mercy of the Lord. So Vachaspati, remember, Mahaprabhu went there for to be alone. And now there's 1,000,000 people outside, they're chanting Haribol and Gaura Hari, Gaura Hari. And he says, I think you're going to have to go out there and, at least show yourself to them. And when he comes out, they just all lose their minds, seeing the beauty of him standing on the balcony, and they're all singing Haribol. He lifts his arms up, Haribol, Haribol, the 1,000,000 sing Haribol, Haribol. And Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he's comparing that to that time when the meeting in Kurukshetra of Radharani and the Braja Gopis, when they finally see Krishna again. And he says in this song, he's taking himself as being one of those people in the crowd. And his song is saying, oh, when will Nimai Pandit give up these robes of renunciation? Like the Gopi said, when will he give up the dress of a king and come back with us on the banks of the Jamuna and Vrindavan? In his song, he's saying, when will he give up these robes of renunciation and come back to the house of Srivas Thakur, and we'll have our Prem Rasa Kirtans again? So beautiful, so compelling are the pastimes of Mahaprabhu. And so Kaviraj Goswami is just begging the readers, saying, you may not understand all these things, but if you will just hear them, allow these topics to enter your ear and touch your heart, you will become Chaitanya Das, you will become Krishna Das, that your ultimate good fortune will be realized if you can just give your attention to this. Hare Krishna. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Sannyas Leela Ki Jai. Hare Krishna. Hari Haraya Nama Krishna Yadavaya Namaha. Hari Harai Namo Krishna Yadavaya Namo Yadavaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Namo Gopal Govinda Ram Sri Madhusudan Giridhari Gopinath Madana Mohan Shri Chaitanya Nityananda Shri Advaita Chandra Garadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jai Rupa Sanatan Vata Raghunath Shri Jiva Gopala Vata Dasa Raghunath Echai Gochai Kori Charana Bandhan Jaha Hoite Vignanas Avista Puran Echai Gochai Jar Mui Tarodas Kansavada Padarenu Moda Panchagras Kandera Charana Sevi Bhakta Sanivas Janome More Abhilas Echai Gochai Jabe Braje Koilovas Radha Krishna Nitya Leela Korila Prakash Anande Bolo Hari Bhaja Vrindavan Shri Guru Vaishnava Pade Majai Aman Shri Guru Vaishnava Pad Padma Koriyas Harinam Sankirtan Koe Narottamadas Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare 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 Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Nitai Gaura Hari Bo, Gaura Hari Bo Nitai Gaur Hari Bo, Nitai Gaur Hari Bo, Nitai Gaur Hari Bo, Go Premanande Hari Hari Bo. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Paribrajaka Astatar Sata Shri Srimad Shri Bhakti Sudhir Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Shri Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Bhagavan Shri Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Jai Saparikar Sri Sri Guru Gauranga Gandharva Govinda Sundar Ji Ki Jai. Shri Giriraj Govardhan Ki Jai. Sri Rupanuga Guru Varga ki jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki jai. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasati Gaur Bhaktivinoda ki jai. Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shyama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan ki jai. Vrindavan Dham ki jai. Navadip Dham ki jai. Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Mat ki jai. Sri Gupta Govardhan ki jai. Ganga Devi Jamuna Devi Bhakti Devi Tulsi Devi ki jai. Om Vishnupad Vishvavarenya Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki jai. Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Madhacharya Brinda ki jai. Jai Srila Bhakti Bimala Vidut Maharaj ki jai. Jai Srila Bhakti Ranjan Madhusudan Maharaj ki jai. Sri Bhakti Lalita Devi Dasi ki jai. Seva Vrinda ki jai. Samveda Bhakti Vrinda ki jai. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Sannyas Leela ki jai. Nitai Go Premanande. Hare Krishna.
Bhakti Sudhir Goswami Maharaj ki jai.
Yes.
From Nadia Barandich, Suchitra Didi, Dhanjay Prabhu Russia, Krishna Kanti Didi USA, Kshama Budhi Prabhu, Madhava Priya Didi, Vijay Krishna London, Ajita Krishna Prabhu Russia, Sevarupa Didi Mexico, Kalyani Didi USA, Malika Didi Hua Hin, Nityananda Ram Prabhu, Muktinath Prabhu Zunja, Rasananda Prabhu Sochi, and Andrea Saha.
Hare Krishna. And Dandavat. I'd like to see their names on the screen. Ah, thank you. Malini Didi St. Peter, Dandavat Sakira in South Africa, I believe. And there's, I don't have my glasses on. Is it Rishikesh Maharaj?
Oh, yes.
All right, and Abhazia Dandavat and the devotees there. I get my Dayavati Dandavat and Keshavananda Prabhu. Jai in his room in Vrindavan. How does it say? Yatai Vaishnavagan Seistan Vrindavan. Wherever the Lord and his devotees are assembled, that place is Vrindavan. Sankalpa Didi and Shanghai Dandavat. Dhananjaya Chaitanyamayi holding the fort down in Roma. Hare Krishna. Lalita Priya Didi Dandavat. Vanavi Didi Dandavat. Hare Krishna. Sugandha Kanti. Oh, it's Nalini Kanta. Dandavat. She's in China. Dandavat. Hello. Dandavat. Hare Krishna. Darling little girl in China. Hare Krishna. Kum Devi Dasi Dandavat. Supriya in China as well. Dandavat, Supriya. Lilavati, she's here and there and everywhere. Gokula Tarini, Dandavat, she's an Abhazia, I believe. And here, who in China? She's Sushmita's teacher friend, sister. Dandavat. Tell her where, oh, she understands. And then Sushmita, Dandavat, she's teaching all the Chinese children. Saraswati and Lakta, Paramananda Prabhu, either in Kyoto or he's touring Japan, turning each place into a real holy place by carrying Mahaprabhu's message. Hare Krishna. Prem Narayan Prabhu on his good ship Harinam. Nityananda Das Prabhu here. Nadia in Kiev. I don't know her spiritual name. Dandavat. Anjali. Dandavat. And her little group there. Ajita Krishna Prabhu. Leela Sundar Prabhu. Dandavat. All right. Is that everyone? Oh, I see more. Braja Latika Dandavat. Sundar, it says here. Okay. Odar Jalila Dandavat, out in the snow in the Ukraine. Right. Aviram Prabhu Dandavat. Nityananda is again returned. Right. Chaitanya Nitai Das Dandavat. Somir Sham Prabhu Dandavat. Ananta Shesh Dandavat. Pandita Rasamohi Pandita Dandavat. Radha Sundari Dandavat, Rasananda, and Priyanana, Kamalini, Sulakshana, Dharini Sundari, Dandavat Kanika Dandavat, Vanchakalpa Tribhyasta, Kripa Sindhu Bevacha, Patitanam Pavanevyo, Vaishnavevyo Namo Namaha. Dandavat.